Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining me on another video, and what we have for you today is the top 5 zombies maps that have served me well. And what I mean by that is the maps that have brought me back through thick and thin. No matter what game might have come out, no matter what highs or lows the community might be going through, these maps have been able to provide that fun zombies experience no matter what the circumstances. Now, compared to most other creators, you might consider me to be a bit of a noob. Not really in terms of being able to get to high rounds, but I'd say more in terms of Easter egg completion. The list of Easter eggs I've completed compared to most other people is abysmal. So it'll probably come to no surprise that the majority of the maps on this list are based mainly on the gameplay and not what you can find in a Mr. Ruffle Waffles guide. So context out of the way, let's get in to our number 5 spot. So starting with maybe an unexpected pick, we have Zombie Threat from World War Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 3. This is always the map I'm looking at the public game playlist to see if anybody's playing. Even back in primary school when we were allowed to bring our old iPod touches into class, I was always trying to get people to play this map on the old mobile game. Fucking hell, do you remember that? Something about Verux stuck to me that the World at War maps didn't really seem to do. When you load up most zombie maps, you're usually going in for one or two things. You're either going in for the high rounds or the Easter egg. In Verux's case, you're going for neither of those things. You're going in for the challenge. Despite being the one to introduce the perk machines, the traps and even the power, Verux is somehow more difficult than its predecessor, Nocturne Totem. And where a challenge is great in itself, it unintentionally or not adds to the horror aspect of the map. So much so that some may even call it terrifying. Without even thinking of the constant screaming, the baby noises, the circus music, the psychotic writing on the walls, etc, etc, you do not know fear in zombies until you have played a 3-player game of Verux and spawned on the wrong side of the locked door. Having to play by yourself for multiplayer is terrifying, I'm telling you. Now with each iteration of remasters making the map more replayable, I think the version in Black Ops 3 is as perfect as it's going to get. The camping strat in the kitchen is far more accessible if you want to race through the rounds, but if you do want to train, you can still find room in the mule kick room, albeit with a little more risk. I've only ever tried it with classic gobblegum so far, and my highest round is 44, which is probably one of my greatest personal achievements in zombies. To sum it up, this is an old-fashioned challenge done right. And now enough gushing about Verux, let's move on to our number 4 spot. So over on the complete opposite side of the stress-inducing zombie spectrum, and probably another strange pick, we actually have Black Ops 4's Classified. It was basically between this and 9, and to put it simply, this was the ultimate late night zombies maps during Black Ops 4's life cycle, especially after they introduced the contract system. It is so incredibly easy to get set up on this map and complete whatever objectives you might have set for yourself, like weapon camos, your calling cards, the contracts themselves. It is ridiculous. I always liked the layout of 5 to begin with, and although the difficulty of that map is great, I think the casual aspect Classified takes suits the Pentagon map so much more. Fixed teleporters instead of random makes this map so much easier and less frustrating, and I think that can be said about most changes that they made to this map. Some might say that using Moon's Area 51 spot for Pack-a-Punch is unoriginal, and while this may be the case, it works for a fantastic training spot that couldn't really be achieved in Moon. By removing the debris every 3 rounds, it's almost as if the map rewards you for playing and pushes you onto high rounds you might not have been aiming for. And where the teleport station is a good space in its own right, this unlockable area is probably the reason for why many of my guns have reached gold camo. Though Black Ops 4's engine in general is a drawback that for some people put them off the game entirely, for those who didn't like me, Classified served me very well in providing a fun, simple and enjoyable experience. Now onto something a little more mainstream, we have Der Eisendrache or DE from Black Ops 3. Honestly, this wasn't even going to make the map list, but after seeing my recent Easter egg completion in theatre mode, it made me remember all the great times I've had on this map past and present. I think no matter what your background is with zombies, you'll be hard pressed to find somebody who doesn't like this map, even in the slightest, and that was certainly true on release. Getting home from school to load up DE for hours on end while looking up all the guys on YouTube and still not knowing what the fuck we were doing was a time I really wish I could return to sometimes. I don't know what it was about this map that was so fun for us to replay it over and over. It could well have just been that the layout was great and that the bows felt fun to use, but it was when me and a friend went back to try the Easter egg for the first time that I mentioned earlier was when I truly remembered what the love I had for Black Ops 3's Golden Child. The flow was incredible, even though we all go out the same side of spawn towards the bridge, because let's be honest, who goes out the other way? Somehow it never seems to get old. The Easter egg steps were a lot more straightforward than I expected as well, so much so that when we lost on the 4th, the 5th or maybe even the 6th attempt, I wasn't even mad. Instead of where some maps feel like they're out to get you, Each failed attempt felt like some progress was being made and we were getting a greater understanding of how to play. If I'm feeling good about losing instead of falling into the classic Zombies rage, you know it's done something right, which is one of the many reasons I love Der Eisendrache. Now going into number 2, there's not really much I can say about Origins that I haven't already said about DE. These two really do go hand in hand. They're both arguably the best or second best in their respective games, and hold up to this day as well as they did on launch. Origins, the finale of the Ether, the return of the Ether cast, you've heard it all before. But before I talk about the main reasons why we go back to this map, I want to dabble on some of the unappreciated features. For a game as repetitive as Zombies, subtle differences in multiple playthroughs are crucial in keeping players coming back, and I think Origins to this day is the best at doing this. The shovels for starters are a great feature that I'm surprised hasn't come back more often other than the plants in like Shadows of Evil and Zetsubo. Every time you use it is a gamble, which to me is fantastic. You can find yourself using a gun you might not always use, but on the other hand, you might find yourself committing grenade seppuku from the piles of grenades probably left over from the World of War veteran campaign. The risk versus reward is always fun, but speaking of danger, the robots that stomp their way through the map are just iconic, okay? They make the map a lot more dynamic by cutting off your usual escape routes, which can turn maybe a monotonous and boring round into an adrenaline-filled rush around every corner. Even the change in weather are good and how they can give you something to aim for in the ice staff parts. Everything is designed to keep a match exciting. It did in 2012, and to me it still does today. And just a quick note on the staffs, whereas the bows in DE might be better performance wise, the base staffs are better for a player like me because you don't need a guide to figure them out. If you just want to hop into a game and aim for the wonder weapons, that can give you plenty of time to make a game feel worthwhile. And if you want that extra damage, that extra challenge, you're more than free to look up a guide to complete the staff upgrades and maybe even get started on the Easter egg. Now the final map on this list and top spot for me is and will probably always be the Giant. I could not tell you how many times I booted up Black Ops 3 to play co-op or solo just to sit on the catwalk or go for high rounds some other way, but I can imagine it would be very, very high. Ever since the game's launch in 2015, this map has served me great for my camos, my gun challenges, camping, training, great multiplayer, basically everything that makes Zombies fun for me. I feel as if most people were to compare the original map DeRelaxed to this remaster, they would generally say that the original is better. But if you were to give me the option of which map to play right now, it would 9 times out of 10 be the Giant. Now I know a lot of people are sick of the snow, but to me the visuals are absolutely beautiful. The soundtrack is mystic and progresses as you open the doors and get all the teleporters linked, and with the already great gameplay we know from DeRelaxed, everything pieces together to craft a perfect Zombies experience. I think what I'm trying to say is that it's the most immersive Zombies maps that I've played so far, and for that reason among many, it is still a favourite to this day. It's not better than Origins, it's not better than DE, but it's at the top of the list because it is. Opinions are funny, eh? Anyway guys, that has been the list of maps that have served me well over the years, and just for the sake of longevity, I'm going to give a little shout out to D Machine in Cold War. It seems that D Machine is the Cold War's Giant in that you can just hop on, find a spot and do whatever challenges you want to do. But if it had a bit more personality or charm about it, I might find myself playing it a little bit more. Thank you so much for watching guys, Denny Meister out.